Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing. Today's target is to solve exercise number 5.1. Chapter is cost profit volume analysis, and we have already taken introduction of it, and the name of this chapter is cost profit volume analysis, and under which there were several things we have discussed. First was fixed cost, and we have seen fixed cost is a cost which will never be altered. For fixed cost we have taken the example rent of factory building. No matter if you are working for 10 days or 15 days or full month, 10 workers, 30 workers, 100,000 workers, but that cost would not be going to alter. This for this would be called fixed cost. And for fixed cost we have taken example as rent of factory building. Then we have seen variable cost which will be altered according to your level of production. You will increase your level of production, cost will increase. If you will decrease your level of production, variable cost would be decreased. Example we have taken was electricity bill. It's easy to understand. More hours you will choose to work, more electricity bill you will receive. Less working hours are present in any factory, that means less electricity bill will be there. So variable cost is directly associated with level of production. It has a direct relationship with level of production, means you will increase your level of production, variable cost will change. You will decrease level of production, variable cost will also be changed. So it is entirely dependent upon level of production. Example we have taken was the electricity bill. Said then you have seen your total cost, and how you will calculate your total cost. Here we had discussed it. Your total cost will come when you will add your fixed cost with fixed cost, when you will add it in your variable cost, you will get your total cost. And then we have discussed contribution margin. And how would you calculate contribution margin? For that you will subtract your variable cost from sales. This we have discussed. When you will subtract your variable cost from amount of sale, you will get your contribution margin. And then we have discussed contribution margin ratio. And how did you calculate contribution margin ratio? You will take contribution margin as you have calculated in previous line, and you will divide it with amount of sales. Here you will be able to calculate your contribution margin ratio. Why we are discussing it? Because it's very important. You will have to repeat it again and again and again, so that a very solid space can be created in your brain. Contribution margin ratio dependent upon contribution margin, and in previous line we have calculated contribution margin by subtracting variable cost from the sale. In the similar way we have discussed break even point, but that break even point was having an aspect of units. How would you calculate your break even point? If you have number of units beside it, you will choose fixed cost, and then you will divide it per unit CM, or per unit contribution margin. And for per unit CM you can calculate it. You will pick per unit sales, and you will subtract per unit variable cost. These formulas are not difficult to understand. You can see we have calculated contribution margin in total amount of sales less total amount of variable cost, and you are calculating absolutely same. Just forget per unit is written. Look over here, contribution margin, sales, and you can see sales over here. variable cost, and you can see variable cost over here. Same formula we have used, but just a coefficient of per unit has been added, or initial word has been added. Formula is absolutely same, contribution margin, but we have attached per unit. In previous formula we have written sale. Sale is also written in this formula, but per unit is added. Variable cost is written in previous formula, and same variable cost is written over here as well, but we have added per unit. This way you can calculate your per unit contribution margin. I can humbly request to you all to please memorize these formulas, because if you will have a very solid space in your brain, I'm promising you there will not be any difficulty while solving our questions. So we have seen per unit contribution margin, and then you should have break even point in terms of dollar, or amount, and you can calculate it as well if you will choose fixed cost and you are going to divide it with contribution margin amount, contribution margin ratio. So how would you calculate break even point in terms of dollar or amount? You will choose fixed cost. Fixed cost would be given in your question. Here you can see that it would be clearly mentioned in the example how much is fixed cost. You will choose that fixed cost and will divide it by CM ratio. And contribution margin ratio we have calculated in this way. When you will be dividing your contribution margin by sales, you will get ratio, and the same ratio you will be using over here, with which you will be able to calculate your break even point. I'm requesting you to please take screenshot of it and save it. This would help you to complete any of your question present in this chapter. So now let's start our question. You will be saying that we were about to solve the exercise question and we haven't started. Why? Because this was very important, and perhaps we will repeat these formulas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 formulas are present over here, and I will try to repeat these formulas again and again while solving any question. Okay, now come over here. We are now be focusing upon our question, and we'll see what is requirement of this question and how would we solve it. You can see here already a statement has been provided over here. Statement of what? That is contribution margin statement, and we know that the very first step is to take sales, and then you will subtract variable cost. What you will get would be contribution margin, and then you will again subtract your variable cost, with which you will get your net margin. This is the simplest form of making income statement, and here you will calculate your contribution margin and net margin. For this, what you will do, you will choose few columns. First column would be for units, and then you will choose per unit cost, and finally you will have your amount or rupees. This way you can calculate any question if you will keep it in mind the procedure or the statement. This way you will be able to calculate all of the question. You will use units, per unit and amount, and as you know, there is nothing new over here. Everything we have already discussed in several of our chapters. So I'm very hopeful you are well familiar with these headings. So I'm just arranging it according to our requirement, and nothing has been altered. All right. So here almost question is previously solved, and we are need to change, or we are need to alter it. You can see here 8,000 units are present over here. So what we will do, we will write 8,000 over here, and complete question has been solved. You can see same headings we have written over here and same headings are appearing over here as well. So variable expenses, fixed expenses, contribution margin and net operating income. Then what is our requirement? Come over here, prepare a new contribution margin format income statement. So this we have already discussed is contribution margin format income statement, where there are these factors that would be the part of income statement. But what he wants from us, a new contribution margin statement when sale volume is increased by 50 units. Now please look at this. This is already an income statement available. Per unit costs are available, but this is for 8,000 unit. He wants us to make a new contribution margin statement if sale volume has been increased 50 units. Previous sale volume was 8,000. So how many number of units now we will be making? That would be 8,000 our previous unit, and he wants to increase it. Look at here, he wants to increase 50 number of units. So when you want to increase, you will add how many units? 50. So the statement which was provided in the question was made for 8,000 unit, and now he wants us to make a statement by increasing 50 number of unit. Per unit cost is already given. 26 is the sale price. So you will be writing 26 per unit in front of sales. And then what you have variable expense as 18. This is also given. Number of units would be similar, 8,050. It is indirectly been understood. The number of units sold must have been prepared, must have been manufactured, must have been produced. So same number of units would be used for cost. How this cost would be different to sales? Just one factor, the per unit cost. Per unit cost, instead of we can write just per unit, because sometimes we will be using per unit sale price, sometimes we will be using per unit cost. All right, now how would you calculate the amount? It is easily understood. Whenever you want to calculate the total amount, you just multiply units by per unit. In LIFO, FIFO, material inventory chapter, in cost of goods sold chapter, we have already discussed that if amount is needed, you will multiply units into per unit. Here you can see how many number of units we are selling, 8,050, and how many how much is per unit cost, that is 26. So this way total sales you have calculated. For variable cost, you will not be going to alter the formula, same formula you will use. Number of units are 8,050 and you are going to multiply it with per unit. The per unit cost was 18. This way you have calculated your cost. It is variable cost. Now we are about to calculate our contribution margin, and let me know how to calculate contribution margin by subtracting your variable cost from sales. Here it has been written, you will write sales and will subtract variable cost. How much sales amount is? That is 2,09,300, and then you will subtract your variable cost, that is 1,44,900. In this way contribution margin will arrive, and that is 64,400. Now here it was not variable cost, it was fixed cost. Typographically it has been written. So you will subtract fixed cost from contribution margin, with which you will be able to calculate your net margin. Let's search how many fixed expenses, how much fixed cost is. That is 56,000 is your fixed cost. But let me know, fixed cost while making 8,000 unit was 56. We accepted. When you were making 8,000 number of unit, your cost was 56. If you are manufacturing 8,050 units, or if you are selling 8,050 units, that means your production has been increased. How much would be the cost? how much fixed cost would be increased? This is a simple question. Please repeat this question in your mind. What I was saying, if you were manufacturing 8,000 unit, if you were selling 8,000 number of unit, your fixed cost was 56,000. If you will increase your level of production, this fixed cost will increase or decrease? Hopefully some of you will answer correctly that fixed cost means fixed. No matter how many number of units we are selling or buying, this cost will not be altered, and we have already discussed fixed cost will be fixed. If you are working for 10 days or 15 days, 90 workers or 30 workers, whole week, or some hours in a week, but that cost will not be altered. An example we have taken was rent of factory building. It would be same, it would be fixed no matter whatever the level of production is. So here fixed expenses are given 56,000. So you will take 50,000, 56,000 over here. It's time to calculate our net margin. How would you calculate your net margin? By subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. This is your contribution margin, and you will subtract fixed cost out of it. Let's do it. Your contribution margin was 64,400, and you will subtract 56,000. That was your fixed cost, and here your contribution margin arrived. Now what else can be more simple than that of this? We have written our format income statement, contribution margin format income statement. It is also called contribution format income statement. You may add margin or you may not add. So we have applied this simple income statement and taken amounts from the question, and we have calculated our net margin, which is 8,400. These are answer already written by hand over here. Now we are going to see our next part. Since I'm using system, it is little easy for me. For next contribution margin, I will be taking heading from previous statement and will write everything similar. But obviously you will have to write whole income statement again and again for second part or for third part, for fourth part, but here little easy for me, so please excuse me to use previous statements as I was supposed to write again as well. Now what we will do, we will be changing these amounts, and we will be working accordingly the factors which are given in part 2. It was part 2, I have written B, better to write second part. And this was your first part of the question. Alright. Now come in second part, what is he saying? The same value declines. Decline means you are decreasing number of units to be sold, 50. Initially you were selling 8,000 units. When you will decrease 50 units, what will happen? Previous units were 8,000. You are declining. Declining means decrease. Decrease means you will subtract 50 number of units. And this way, number of units now you are producing are 7950. Total units you have sold 7950. Obviously, the cost you will use the same number of units, 7950. And how did we establish this fact that number of units sold and cost would be same? Obviously, if you are selling something, that those number of units must be present in your possession. Same number of units if would be present, then you will be able to sell number of units. So here, if you are selling 7950 number of unit, same number of units would be used for the cost as well. For amount, we do know that you will multiply your units with per unit. Here we are selling 7950 number of units, and you are going to multiply it with per unit. And how much per unit is 26? There you have got the amount of sales. Now in the similar way, you will calculate your cost by multiplying units into per unit. Your units are 7950, and you will multiply it with per unit, and that is 18. So here you have calculated your cost. Now it's time to calculate your contribution margin. And how would you calculate it? By subtracting variable cost from sales. How much sales is? 2,06,700, and you will subtract your variable cost, and that is 1,43,100. This way you have calculated your contribution margin. It is absolutely same what you have done in your previous part 1, and similarly you will be calculating your contribution margin in part 2. It's time to see fixed cost. Now let me know, when you were making 8,000 number of units, your fixed cost was 56,000. If you will decrease your level of production, if you will work less, if you will work for less number of days, this fixed cost will increase or decrease? This is the simple question, but let me know the answer. Obviously, it's not a live lecture. I was very hopeful to get the answer directly. Hopefully, some of you could have answered it. If you will decrease the level of production or you will increase the level of production, this fixed cost will never be altered. It would be same, no matter if you are working for few days or you are working for full 30 days in a month. If 20, 30, 40 workers are working or thousands of workers are working, that cost would be same in all conditions. So for 8,000 number of unit, fixed cost was 56,000. We are going to use same fixed cost even if the level of production has been decreased. It's time to calculate net margin. How would you calculate? By subtracting fixed cost from contribution margin. How much contribution margin was? 63,600, and you will subtract your fixed cost, which is 56,000, and here you have got your second answer, that is net margin, and answer has been written over here as well. Second part is solved, and we are going to solve our third part where number of units have been altered again. What I will do, I will hire these headings which are used to make previous statement, and I'm going to use same headings to prepare third part statement. It's easy for me, but you will have to write whole statement again. And now what I will do, I will just change the figures over here. Okay, there are few other things written. We can delete them. So this is third part, and what I will do, I will use values which are given according to third part. Here what he has done, sale volume has been decreased up till 7,000. Initially you were selling your 8,000 number of units, and now you are selling your 7,000 number of units. So simply you will change number of unit, 7,000 number of units. If you are selling same number of units you must have in your possession, so number of units sold and number of cost of, and the number of unit which would be used for variable cost would always be similar. We are doing this for third time, and I am very hopeful some of you have completely strongly and actively present in their mind that how you can calculate your amount by multiplying your units with per unit. How many number of units you are selling? This is 7,000. You will multiply it with per unit, and how much is per unit? That is 26. Here you have calculated your total sales. It's time to calculate variable cost, total variable cost. How would you calculate your variable cost? By multiplying units into per unit. Your units are 7,000 and you will multiply it with per unit cost, that is 18. So here you have calculated your total variable cost as well. It's time to calculate your contribution margin. And how would you calculate it? By subtracting your variable cost from sales. How much sales is? 1,82,000, and you will subtract your variable cost, that is 1,26,000. Here you have calculated your contribution margin. It's time to calculate your net margin. And how would you calculate? By putting fixed cost. Again, same question I'm asking. If you were manufacturing 8,000 number of unit, if you were selling 8,000 number of unit, the fixed cost was 56,000, and now you are selling 7,000. 1,000 number of units have been decreased. Let me know fixed cost will increase or decrease. Hopefully some of you will have the correct answer. No matter if you are increasing or decreasing the sale volume, no matter if you are working for more number of days or less number of days, fixed cost will always be fixed, as its name is correctly making us understood that fixed cost will never be altered. You have seen in first part we have written 56,000. In second part you can see over here you have written 56,000, and even in third part you will be writing the same 56,000 over here as well. Now it's time to calculate your net margin. How would you calculate? You will subtract your fixed cost from contribution margin. So let's calculate our net margin. Your contribution margin was 56,000 and you are supposed to subtract your fixed cost, which is also 56,000, and here your net margin has become 0. In this way we have solved our question, and I'm very hopeful that you people were with me and you were trying to put these concepts in your mind. I'm requesting you to see this question and solve it at least 2-3 times by yourself without looking or without cheating. Then I can be hopeful that you will have a very solid and strong place in your mind. Most importantly, these were 9 formulas which we have discussed. Again, I'm humbly requesting you to please repeat them, write down somewhere and repeat them again and again. It would be so much easier for you to solve any question in this chapter if you have upper 9 formulas and this was your question. If you have any query, you are very open to comment, message, text, or you are very open to contact directly as well. For the time being we are taking break and we will come back for the solution of any other question. Up till then, please take care of yourself. I am requesting you to please pray for me as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say bye. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.